I'm Ruth Carter, 62 years old, an ordinary old lady living in a small town near Nashville, Tennessee, where First Baptist Church is the heartbeat of every Sunday. I'm not one of those fanatics preaching on street corners, just a widow who goes to service regular, believing in God my simple way. But on January 19th, 2025, everything I thought about him, about faith, about myself, got shattered in one terrifying moment. A fall right on the church steps, where I thought I'd die and where I met him face to face. What he revealed about his name in Hebrew didn't just shock me to my bones, it flipped my whole world upside down forever. That night, rain poured like a flood, the Tennessee chill cutting through my worn-out coat, my old shoes slipping on, the wet stone steps leading into the church. I was mumbling my usual prayer, clutching a torn umbrella, heart light, 'cause I'd soon sing hymns with the congregation. Then, bam! My foot slipped, my head smashed hard on the stone, a sickening crack, ringing out like breaking bone, hot blood gushing from my forehead, pooling under the rain, dark red like the communion wine I sipped every week. I heard someone scream, "Ruth, oh God, call an ambulance!" Then everything blurred. Darkness rushed in, cold and deep. I thought, dead, right in front of his house. How ironic is that? My heart stopped. I felt it. No more thumping, just a dead silence swallowing me whole. I wasn't scared to die. At 62, husband gone, kids grown, I figured I was ready to meet God. But I never imagined that crossing the line between life and death, I'd see him. Not some dreamy glow like the church paintings, but a figure in white, his voice booming in my head. "Ruth, do you know my true name?" I trembled, speechless, standing in a blinding white light, brighter than the sun, warmer than the winter heater I used to huddle by. He went on, "My name hides a secret, a prophecy from before the world began, and today, I'll show you." I was stunned. The name of God I'd read in the Bible for years, the one I called Lord or God, held a meaning so staggering, a truth tied straight to Jesus' cross, carved into ancient Hebrew letters. Ever wonder what God's real name is? Not Lord, not God, but the sacred name the ancient Jews wouldn't dare speak. Yahweh or Yod-He-Vav-He. He told me those 4 letters hold a story that chilled me to the core. Yod is my hand, He is my revelation, Vav is the Gi, nail on the cross. He is me wanting you to see. I stood there, frozen, as he explained his name foretold Jesus' sacrifice thousands of years before he walked the earth. Me, an old lady who went to church just to sing and pray for peace, now knew a secret hidden for centuries. This ain't some tale I cooked up for kicks. I died for real. Heart stopped 4 minutes, and I saw him. What he showed me about Yahweh isn't just a name. It's the key unlocking history, prophecy, and humanity's future. Think you know God? Stick with me till the end of this video, 'cause what I'm about to tell you will shock you, make you wonder, if his name hides a truth this big, what have I missed in my faith? Don't you dare leave. Hit subscribe right now. Turn on that bell, 'cause this story's not just mine. It's yours. It's all of ours. You won't believe what I saw after dying on those church steps, and it'll change how you see the Bible forever. I just told you about that horrifying moment on January 19th, 2025, when I fell and cracked my head on the steps of First Baptist Church, died for 4 minutes, and met God. He revealed a secret about his Hebrew name that shocked me to my core. But before you think I'm some Bible-thumping saint who's always praying at an altar, let me tell you who I am, where I come from, and why that day changed everything. I'm Ruth Carter, 62 years old, and my life before that fall was nothing special. Just a string of quiet days in a small town near Nashville, Tennessee, where church was my little slice of peace amid life's losses. I was born in 1963 in a Catholic family on the outskirts of Nashville, where the smell of fresh-cut grass and the sound of church bells filled every Sunday morning. My dad, George, was a carpenter, a quiet man who'd sit at the dinner table reading psalms aloud to us. My mom, Esther, taught me to pray. She'd make me kneel by my bed every night, reciting Our Father in Heaven, even though I didn't. Fully get it. I wasn't a pious kid. I'd rather run around in the fields than sit through sermons. But I remember the warmth of holding Mom's hand in church, singing Amazing Grace with my squeaky voice, even if I only did it because she wanted me to. I believed in God, but to me, He was like a kind old man in the clouds, far off, not too tied to my life. At 10, I asked Mom, why pray if God already knows everything? She smiled, ruffled my hair. 'Cause He wants to hear you, Ruth. I nodded, but inside, it felt vague. I grew up with those prayers, but they were just routine. I never thought to dig deeper. Never imagined I'd one day stand before Him, hearing Him talk about His name like a secret that'd shake the world. I met John Carter in 1985 when I was 22, at a church picnic. He was tall, brown-haired, with a gentle smile, working at my dad's woodshop. We fell fast. He loved how I sang hymns. I loved his stories about fishing on the Cumberland River. We married in 1988 at First Baptist Church, the same place I'd later die. The pastor said, "God's joined you as one," and I believed it. John was my rock, not rich, but hardworking, and we built a simple life in a little wooden house outside town. Mary came in 1990, David in 1993. My 2 kids were my greatest joy. I taught them prayers like Mom taught me, took them to church every Sunday, sang Jesus Loves Me to lull them to sleep. But I wasn't a preaching mom. I let them find God their way, like I did. John was different. He believed deep, read the Bible to the kids, especially "The Lord is my shepherd" from Psalm 23. I loved hearing him, but I didn't dig in. To me, faith was simple, no need to overthink. Then, in 2015, John got lungy. Cancer. He wasted away fast, voice raspy, but still held my hand saying, "Ruth, God'll take care of you." He died on a rainy November day, leaving me with an empty house and grown kids. I cried, prayed, asked God, "Why'd you take him?" But I got no answer, just silence. I kept going to church, singing hymns, but inside, faith started feeling like an old habit, not a fire. I had no clue that 10 years later, a fall at church would set it blazing again. It's 2025 now, I'm 62, living alone in the wooden house John left, paint peeling, roof leaking when it pours. I work part-time at the town library, an easy gig, shelving books, chatting with old ladies, borrowing romance novels. Pays not much, covers bills and groceries, but I don't need more. Mary's 35, a nurse in Knoxville, married with 2 little ones. David's 32, an engineer in Atlanta, still single. They call weekly, but I don't tell them how lonely I get. I don't want to burden them. I still go to First Baptist every Sunday, sit mid-row, sing hymns with my croaky old voice. I love the vibe, the organ's hum, the smell of aged wood from the pews, sunlight through stained glass. I read the Bible at home, usually Psalms or Matthew, but I don't dig deep. I don't get the prophecy stuff or weird names like Yahweh the pastor sometimes drops. To me, God's Lord or God, the simple names I use praying for health or peace. I had no idea that name, his real name, held a secret so huge. My life rolled on, calm, steady, nothing special. I wasn't the type to hunt for God in every verse, wasn't one to stand up and testify in service. I was just an old widow, finding comfort at church, thinking my faith was enough. But on January 19th, 2025, as I climbed those church steps in the rain, everything I knew about God, about myself, flipped upside down. I fell, I died, and I saw him. Not just my Lord, but the one named Yod-He-Vav-He, with a meaning that chilled me to the bone. Want to know what I saw after my heart stopped? Stay with me. The story's just getting started. I just told you about my quiet life. Ruth Carter, 62, a widow in a small town near Nashville, Tennessee, where First Baptist Church was my little refuge in lonely days. I said it already. I'm no fanatic, not digging into the Bible or chasing God in every verse, just an old lady going to service regular, believing in him my simple way. But on January 19th, 2025, a rainy Sunday, everything I knew about life, about faith, flipped upside down. I had no clue stepping onto those church steps that day would be my last in this world, at least for 4 terrifying minutes when my heart stopped. That day was freezing, the Tennessee winter chill cutting through the old coat I'd worn since John was alive. Rain fell hard, wind howling, making my torn umbrella shake like crazy. I woke early like every Sunday, brewed black coffee in my wooden kitchen, watched rain hit the window, thinking, not many'll show up today. But I went anyway. I loved the organ, loved sitting with the congregation, singing How Great Thou Art, even with my raspy voice. I pulled on a wool hat, to worn-out shoes, and drove my 20-year-old Ford Escort to church, a 10-minute trip. When I got there, the parking lot was near empty, just a few cars from devout old ladies like me and Pastor Thomas. I stepped out, rain stinging my face, cold making me shiver. The stone steps to the church were slick from water, green moss clinging, but I didn't notice. I'd climbed them hundreds of times, no problem. I mumbled a prayer as I went. Lord, keep me well today, one hand on my umbrella, the other gripping the icy iron railing. I heard the church bell ring, signaling service was near, and smiled. That sound always brought me peace. Then it happened fast as lightning. My foot slipped on the 3rd step. Worn soles couldn't grip the wet stone. I lost balance, dropped the umbrella, grabbed for the railing but missed. I crashed down, head smashing hard on the stone. Thud. A dry crack echoing like a hammer on wood. Pain shot through my forehead. Hot blood poured out, pooling down my face, mixing with rain. I heard a scream. Ruth! Oh God, somebody help! Probably Helen, who sits by me in service. My eyes blurred. Hands and feet went numb. Then, darkness rushed in, deep and cold. I thought, that's it, right at his doorstep. How's that for irony? That was my last thought before I felt nothing. I lay there, blood pooling under the church steps. But I didn't feel pain anymore. Everything went silent. No rain, no screams. just a strange cold wrapping around me, colder than the winter, one I'd just faced. I couldn't hear my heartbeat. That familiar thump was gone, replaced by a dead void. I wasn't scared. I'm 62, lost my husband, kids grown. I figured dying wasn't so bad. But then, in that darkness swallowing me, a blinding white light tore it apart, so bright I wanted to shut my eyes, though I had no eyes to shut. I felt myself rise, not stand, but float, light as smoke from a fireplace. I looked down and saw my body on the steps, head busted, blood dark red spreading in the rain, coat soaked, worn shoes skewed to one side. Helen knelt beside me crying, hands shaking as she dialed 911. Pastor Thomas ran out the church door yelling, "Ruth, don't go, stay with us!" I saw other folks crowd around, one draping a coat over me, but I knew I wasn't there anymore. I thought, they can't save me, I'm gone. I hovered above, watching the chaos like a sad movie where I was the star who'd just died. No pain, no tiredness, just that weird cold seeping into me, or whatever I was now. I wondered, this is death? No heaven, no hell? Just me like this? I wasn't afraid, but curious. I'd gone to church my whole life, sung hymns, prayed, and now here I was, floating in the rain. I thought of John. Was he out there somewhere, waiting? Then the darkness came back, deeper, pulling me in like a bottomless pit. I heard wind howling, like something sucking me through a giant tunnel. I thought, what's this? A cold hell? But I didn't panic. I just drifted, letting it take me, until that white light flared again, stronger, warmer, like a blanket I'd used in winter. I knew I wasn't Ruth Carter, the widow from Nashville, anymore. I'd died, and what? I'd see next would shake me to my bones. I didn't know that light would lead me to him, the one named Yod-He-Vav-He, with a secret that'd chill me to my core. I opened my eyes, not on the church steps, but in an ER, antiseptic stinging my nose, harsh white lights hurting my eyes. My head throbbed like it had been hammered, wrapped in bandages, an IV in my arm, machines beeping nearby. I heard Helen whisper, "Ruth, thank God you're awake." Pastor Thomas stood beside, gripping my hand, eyes red. "You scared us to death." I looked around, head foggy, thinking, how am I alive? The doctor walked in, a tall, thin guy, voice stern. "Mrs. Carter, your heart stopped 4 minutes on the way here. The pastor did CPR just in time, but your brain went without oxygen. You shouldn't be awake. You're damn lucky." I stared, remembering the fall, the blood, the light, all clear like a slow-motion reel. I asked, voice weak, "Who got me here?" Pastor said, "Me and Joe carried you to the ambulance. You fell at 10 a.m. It's 11:30 now." I lay there, head pounding, heart thumping, but I knew. I didn't just fall and wake, I died, even if just 4 minutes. Heard the doc tell a nurse. "She lost a lot of blood, but no brain damage. Weird as hell." I smiled faintly, thinking, weird. I crossed over, you fool. I didn't tell anyone at the hospital about the light or what I'd see next. They'd think I'm nuts or old age dreaming. But lying there, head wrapped white, I couldn't shake that floating, that warm light, and the voice I'd hear soon. I'd believed in God my whole life, but never thought he'd show himself to me, revealing his name's secret right after I died at his church. Want to know what he said? Don't go anywhere. The real story starts now. I just told you about dying on the steps of First Baptist Church on January 19th, 2025. The brutal head smash. Blood pooling in the rain, my heart stopping for 4 minutes, then that blinding white light pulling me from cold darkness. I'd thought, dead's dead. I'm ready to meet God. But I never expected that when that light flared again, warm like a winter blanket, I'd stand before him. Not in a dream or fantasy, but real, vivid, with a voice echoing in my head, my heart, every worn-out piece of my soul. What he said about his name shook me, shocked me to my bones, and changed everything I'd ever believed. I wasn't drifting anymore. I stood, or floated, in a space with no walls, no floor, just light wrapping me, brighter than the sun, warmer than any fire I'd sat by. I looked around, confused, thinking, where am I? Heaven can't be this. No golden gates or angels. Then he appeared, a figure in white, no face, no eyes or mouth, just a shape glowing soft but strong enough to make me want to kneel, though I had no knees to bend. His voice hit me, not through my ears but inside. Ruth, do you know who I am? I trembled, speechless. I'm Ruth Carter, a 62-year-old from Nashville, only good at hymns and simple prayers. Never thought I'd face God for real. I nodded weakly, and he went on. I am the one who made you, Ruth. I am the light of the world. I flinched. It sounded familiar, like something Pastor Thomas read, which I later found in John 8:12. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. But right then, I just stood there, stunned, staring, my heart a mess. He didn't get mad, didn't shout. He just stood, his light giving me peace, a peace I hadn't felt since John died. I wanted to ask, to say something, but my mouth wouldn't move. He knew my tangled mind. Then he said, Ruth, you've called me Lord, God, but do you know my true name? It holds a secret, a prophecy from before. The world began, and today I'll show you. I was shocked. The name I'd used my whole life, read in the Bible for years, wasn't just a word, but a story that chilled me. He raised a hand, not a real hand, but a beam of light, and the space before me blazed like a door opening to truth. I stood there, facing God, that light making me want to shut my eyes, but I couldn't. Then my mouth, the one that prayed, sang hymns, but also quietly blamed him when John died, let loose. Why'd you let me die right at your church? I asked, voice hoarse though. I had no throat to speak. I've gone to service my whole life, believed in you, prayed to you. So why'd you let me fall, let me hurt, let me lose my husband, let me live so lonely? How are you God when you let an old lady like me suffer? I didn't stop, I poured it out. I told him about kneeling with Mom praying without understanding, marrying John thinking he blessed us, then crying by John's hospital bed, begging him to save but getting silence. I said, I've sung Amazing Grace 100 times, read Psalm 23 100 nights, so why'd you stay quiet when I needed you most? I'm no saint, I'm not smart, but I believed. Why'd you let me die at your door? I thought he'd get angry, yell at me for doubting. I'd heard pastors say God punishes that. But he didn't. He stood there, his light steady, voice still soft. "Ruth, you have eyes but don't see, ears but don't hear." I froze. It rang a bell, later found in Matthew 13:13, where he says, "People don't get it because their hearts are hard." Back then, I just thought, don't see, don't hear what? I see my life's pain clear enough. But he didn't argue. He looked at me, and I felt something in me crack, like the wall I'd built to doubt him started breaking. I stopped, talking, panting though I didn't need to breathe, waiting for him. He said, "You blame me, but you don't know I've been with you always. My name is the answer. It's the truth about me, you, everything." I was lost. "Your name's got what to do with it?" He smiled. I didn't see it, but felt it and said, "Look, Ruth, and you'll understand." I didn't know what he'd show me, but I felt warmth from him, like he wanted me to open up, and I stood there, scared and curious. The space before me shifted. The white light turned into a giant screen, like a movie theater I never had cash to visit young. He said, "Ruth, this is my name, Yod-He-Vav-He, what you call Yahweh. It's not just a name, but a prophecy, a truth I set from creation." I stood, stunned, thinking, Yahweh? That name Pastor mentioned I never cared about? He raised his hand, and each letter blazed before me like carved into the air. He began, "Yod is my hand, the power that made the heavens, freed my people from Egypt." I recalled later, Exodus 15:6, "Your right hand, O Yahweh, majestic in power." I saw a hand reaching out, creating the world, pulling me from darkness when I died. He went on, "He is my revelation, my breath. I want you to see me, know me." I found later, Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." I felt a gentle breeze like breath stirring my heart. Then he said, "Vav is the nail tying you to me through my son's cross." I was shocked. Nail? I saw Jesus on the cross, hands and feet pierced, blood flowing, and I shook as he quoted Psalm 22:16. "They pierced my hands and my feet." I thought, how's this in your name? He finished, "The second he is me wanting you to see the sacrifice, my love for you." I stood, chilled as he explained. Yod-He-Vav-He is behold the hand, behold the nail. My name foretold my son's crucifixion before the world began. I was floored. The name Yahweh I'd barely noticed was a prophecy of the cross of Jesus, etched in ancient Hebrew. He added, "You search the scriptures, for they testify of me." John 5:39. I thought of all the times I read without seeing, and now I saw his name was the key. He showed me history, the Mesha Stele from 840 BC naming Yahweh as Israel's God, the Ketef Hinnom scrolls from 700 BC with Yahweh bless you, the Lachish letters from 586 BC praying, Yahweh hear good news. I thought, why didn't I know this? He said, my people forgot my name, called me Lord, but my name is salvation, is light. I trembled. Yahweh wasn't just a name, but a story of love, sacrifice, and timeless truth. I stood there, an ordinary old lady, now knowing, a secret that made me want to scream from shock. I stood, head spinning from seeing Yahweh and its meaning. He stepped closer, his light warming me, and said, Ruth, you fell 'cause you needed to see me, not through habit, but truth. My name is Yod-He-Vav-He, eternal life. I recalled later John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. He went on, call me Yahweh. My name is your strength. Share my name, live in love and faith, as I loved you through the cross. I was lost. How can I? I'm just an old lady, no preacher. He laughed, a gentle feeling, and said, you don't need to preach, just live. Love your neighbor as yourself. Matthew 22:39. Forgive, share, and you'll see me. I felt my heart open, doubt melting away. He added, my name will be restored. Zechariah 14:9. And you're part of it. Go back, Ruth, and live as I've shown. The light faded. I felt pulled back to the aching body in the hospital. But I knew I wasn't old Ruth anymore. I'd seen him, heard him, and the secret of Yahweh changed me forever. I just told you about standing before God in blinding light, hearing him reveal the secret of his name, Yod-He-Vav-He, or Yahweh, a prophecy of Jesus' cross etched in ancient Hebrew, shocking me to my bones. As the light faded, I felt pulled back like someone yanked me through a tunnel. Then I opened my eyes, not in that realm anymore, but on a hospital bed, head bandaged, antiseptic in my nose, machines beeping nearby. I woke after 4 minutes of a dead heart, but in my soul, his words were fresh as if just spoken, and I knew I couldn't stay silent. I lay there, head throbbing, staring at the white ceiling, hearing Helen whisper beside me, Ruth, thank God, you're back. Pastor Thomas sat close, holding my hand, eyes red. You scared us half to death. I looked at them, mind reeling. I'd died, I'd seen him, and he sent me back with a mission, share his name. I thought, how do I tell? They'll think I'm crazy or old and dreaming. But his voice echoed in my head, share my name, and I knew I had to speak. I took a breath, voice weak. Pastor, I didn't just fall and wake, I died and I saw God. He blinked, leaning closer. What did you see, Ruth? I hesitated, then said, he came in light, told me his name's Yahweh, Yod-He-Vav-He. He said what each letter means. Yod's his hand, he's revelation, Vav's the nail on the cross. He's him wanting me to see. His name foretold Jesus crucified before the world began. Pastor Thomas gaped. Helen whispered, Lord, is that real? He asked, you sure, Ruth? This is big. Yahweh's the sacred name in the Bible, one Jews won't say. I nodded. He showed me everything. History too, like the Mesha Stele, Ketuvim scrolls, Lashish letters, all with his name. He told me to share, to restore it. He went quiet, then said, rest up, but if it's true, I want you to tell it at Sunday service. I'll check the Bible more. I smiled faintly. I'm no preacher, but I knew this was the first step. He wanted. I left the hospital after 5 days, head still aching, but my heart light. Not 'cause I survived, but 'cause I carried his name secret. I went back to my old wooden house, looked around, empty kitchen table, torn sofa, but for the first time, I didn't feel alone. I grabbed John's old Bible from the shelf, opened it, determined to dig deeper. I looked up every verse he'd mentioned, John 8:12, Matthew 13:13, Psalm 22:16, John 5:39, and saw it clear. Yahweh wasn't just a name, but the truth about him, Jesus, a love beyond time. I started praying different, no more Lord or God out of habit, but Yahweh, voice shaky but strong. I said, Yahweh, thank you for showing me. And that warmth from the light flooded back. I taught my kids over the phone, called Mary and David, told them, I died at church, saw God, and he said his name's Yahweh, meaning, behold. The hand, behold the nail. Mary laughed. Mom, you sure you didn't dream it? But David got serious. Mom, if it's real, I want to learn more. I sent them verses, heart warm seeing his name's seed take root. I started a blog. Me, a 62-year-old fumbling on the library computer, I called it Ruth's Light, wrote my NDE from the fall to his teaching on Yahweh. I wrote, I'm no pastor, just an old lady who saw God, and he said his name's Yod-He-Vav-He, a prophecy of the cross. At first, just a few read, Helen, some library ladies, but I didn't quit. I thought, he said share, I've got to do it. I wasn't living like before. I lived with his name, feeling him closer every day. Next Sunday, I stood before First Baptist's congregation, legs shaky, hands clutching my Bible. Pastor Thomas introduced, Ruth has something to share. She died last week, and God spoke to her. I told it, the fall, the light, his words on Yahweh. Yod's the hand, he's revelation. Vav's the nail, he's to see. I said, he told me to share, so we'd call him Yahweh, not just Lord. His name's salvation, love through. The cross. The room went silent, then Helen clapped a few amens, but some shook their heads. Sounds weird. After service, some old ladies asked, Ruth, really? What's this Yahweh? I explained, quoted scripture, told about Mesha, Ketef Hinnom. An old guy, Bill, snapped, Jews don't say that name. Don't stir trouble. I said soft, I'm just telling what I saw. He told me to live it. Slowly, folks got curious. They asked the pastor, checked Bibles, and next service, I heard a lady sing, Yahweh bless me, instead of Lord. I thought, he was right. His name'll be restored. I went around town, not preaching, just talking, to the library clerk, delivery guy, supermarket ladies. I said, I died 4 minutes, saw God, and he said his name's Yahweh, meaning the cross. Some laughed, some nodded, but I saw seeds spread. My blog hit 50 readers, then 100. Folks from Knoxville, Atlanta messaged, Ruth, I'm calling. Yahweh, feel closer to him. I cried. Not pride, but seeing his word come true through an old lady like me. I just told you how I changed after January 19th, 2025. From dying on First Baptist Church's steps, heart stopped 4 minutes, to meeting God in blinding light, hearing him reveal his name's secret, Yahweh, Yod-He-Vav-He, a prophecy of Jesus' cross that shocked me to my bones. I woke in the hospital, shared with the pastor and congregation, started living different with his name, and saw it spread in my little Nashville, Tennessee community. I'm Ruth Carter, a 62-year-old who lived quiet, thought faith was just routine. Now sitting in my old wooden house with an open Bible, knowing I found him after a lifetime I never expected. I died, for real, blood pooling on the church steps, heart silent 4 minutes in freezing rain. I saw light, met him, heard his name's not just a word, but a story of love, sacrifice, timeless truth. He showed me my life. The girl praying with mom not understanding. The happy wife with John. The lonely widow blaming him and told me to live with his name. I woke, dug deeper into scripture, called Yahweh instead of Lord, told my kids, wrote a blog, stood before folks without shaking. I'm not just an old lady singing hymns anymore. I'm a bearer of his. Name seed, small but real. I'm not great. I still forget verses, fumble blogging, but I try living as he taught. Love, forgive, share. I talk to library ladies, delivery guys, not preaching, just saying, I died, saw him, he's Yahweh. A supermarket gal who laughed at me now messages, Ruth, I tried Yahweh, it feels different. I don't force belief, I just tell. Like he told me, and see his name come alive in people I meet. Now I see life different. I used to think God was distant, just for health or peace prayers, but now I know he's Yahweh, always there, not for big houses or cash, but to guide. Me through darkness I locked myself in. I read Psalm 46 every night. Be still and know that I am God, Psalm 46:10, feeling him in every word. I'm not scared anymore, not of loneliness, not of age, 'cause I know he sees me, and his name's my strength. I dream of Mary, and David calling Yahweh with their kids, First Baptist folks singing it, not just Lord. I dream of helping others, not with money, but my story, showing if an old lady like me found him through death, they can too. I go to church more, not shy belting Yahweh bless me. I follow his word. Love your neighbor as yourself. Matthew 22:39. I bring bread to Helen, fix Bill's door free despite his grumbling, and each time I feel him closer. My future's unclear. I'm still a poor old lady in a leaky wooden house, but I've got faith. I believe living with Yahweh, with his love and truth, means I'm not alone. He's the light, and I'm learning to walk in it, one slow step at a time with my creaky old legs. You've heard my story, from an old lady dying at church, meeting God, to finding myself after 62 simple years. I used to think faith was just hymns and prayers to pass the day, thought death was the end. But I was wrong. I died, saw him, heard him, and he changed me, not with Hollywood miracles, but the truth of his name. Yahweh, Yod-He-Vav-He, behold the hand, behold the nail, a prophecy of the cross from before the world began. What about you? Ever wondered God's real name? Not Lord, not God, but Yahweh, the name Jews wouldn't speak, forgotten over time, but he promised to restore, Zechariah 14:9. Ever felt life's tiring, lonely, like I thought he'd ditched me? I'm not here to force you. He didn't force me, just knocked, waited for me to open. But I'll tell you straight, if an old lady like me, only good for church and hymns, saw him through death, you can too. Try it. Say Yahweh once, read Psalm 46:10, help a stranger, see what you feel. Maybe you'll find him, like I did in that light. I don't promise life gets easy. I'm still poor, still old. But I promise if you open up, you'll find something bigger. He's Yahweh, there with me, you, everyone. When Jesus returns, he'll bear his name on his robe. King of kings, Lord of lords, Revelation 19:16, and all nations will know Yahweh. You brave enough to believe? Don't let his name fade. Call him. Live like I'm trying.